Hi, Steve Arterburn here. Thanks for joining me for Going Deeper. We're in a series on matters of the soul, and a lot of this material comes out of the new book by Dr. Dave Stoop and myself, The Soul of a Hero. Well, the soul of a hero. If you're going to be a hero, you want to win some battle. You want to go off and fight a war, and you come back and you've done your job and you lived, and you become a hero. If you die, you become a hero, but you're not around here to experience the celebration. But a hero loves to do battle. And, when we look at what Scripture says about this world, we were harassed at every turn, conflicts on the outside, and fears within. Now, it really brings us to where I want to talk this morning or this afternoon, whenever you see this, and that is, rather than fight the battles out there, what Scripture's talking about, conflicts on the outside, the true hero, the biblical hero, the soul of a hero, wants to, needs to, is willing to fight the war within. Now, some of you may be like me. The way I was raised, some of the things that I got involved with that were wrong, I'm just so grateful that I have a ministry, a family, and that God is a God of mercy. But I tend toward living with shame and regret. That's where when the needle goes, that's where I'm going to be. I went to a new therapist, and we sat down and talked, and he said this to me. He said, as I hear you talk, your assessment of yourself is much more negative than positive. And so I've heard that before from many counselors. And the problem I've had is that here's what the predictable, superficial counselor says. Now, we know God's forgiven you of those sins. We know that, you can live beyond shame and regret and all these things that they said. Here's what this guy said. He said, I really believe that you're not going to truly change until you are fully who you are. No faking it. No trying to make yourself feel better or look better. You're just you. I almost wanted to cry. He says, I'm going to let you be miserable with yourself. Not too far miserable, but I'm going to let you be miserable and be and live into who you really are. And then I'm going to help you change. Boy, I just thought that was so great. Nobody's ever done that before. When we look at who we really are, we discover that we've got some battles to fight. You've heard me refer to Scott Peck. He said life is difficult. Well, you know what George Dawson said? George Dawson was 103 when he said this. By the way, he learned to read at 98. What do you think it's too late to do? He learned to read at 98. You see, he was the grandson of a slave. And you know what he said? He didn't say life is difficult. He said life is good. That's his assessment. I think that he, like so many other people, fought and won the battles from within. Because life is good. It's not easy. It's not fair. It's not predictable. None of that is true. And it's not pain-free. And when we truly experience those things, then we can change those things. If we never look at ourselves, if we never identify the problem, then we're never going to get better. I've heard people say, life is like going down two tracks. There's a good track and there's a bad track. Yeah, but what about the locomotive? What about the engine that's on those tracks? Well, that's who we are, and that engine, it's not a steam engine, it's a brain. Now, some of us have problems that come upon us like a tornado. And it's instant, bolt of lightning, and we've got to react. Others of us, it's like It's not instant. We've been living in the desert in the summer for a long time. Or we've been living in Antarctica with a sweater. The weather is deadly over time. It doesn't matter which mode we're in. There are things that we can do that can help us in our heart and in our mind and in our soul. You know, I've been kind of like the cable guy, get her done. My wife is not like the cable guy. She is, in due time, will do what we need to do. And I've been trying to be more of that person. And it's quite challenging to do it. But whenever we have a challenge, we only have it because we see the challenge versus just moving beyond. If I see the challenge, if I know what it is, like to be more present rather than getting on with getting it done, then I can assess it and I can determine what I need to do to make it better. But you know, some people, it's not easy. And what we want to do, we want to get out of the fix-it mode, the get-her-done mode all the time, which is great to do. But sometimes we need to get out of that mode because what we're really needing to do is just endure. There are things we cannot fix, but we can endure them well. And I think enduring something well, I have to see the end result. I have to know it. I've got to have some hope that there's an end to it and I'm going to be okay. Well, we know with the Lord that is going to be true. Now, there are a lot of things that I can do when I react. I've talked about it a million times. I can withdraw. I can get into some addiction. I can be angry. Or I can decide a better strategy is look for what I'm grateful for, pray about it, get some help around me, and do what needs to be done. I was talking to Dr. Sherry Keffer about a professional in the Christian counseling world who receives a lot of criticism for what he does. I know this man, and he's quite a genius, actually. And I think a lot of people are very jealous of him. And Dr. Keffer was talking to me about how sad it is, the things that are said about him. I said, you know, whenever somebody says something like that to me about this person, I say to them, hey, what if it was true? What if his motives were wrong? What if everything that you've said about this guy that you question is true? Have you ever stopped to look at the good stuff he's done? Even if all that's true, the people he's helped, the people that swear by this guy. I'm having to tell a therapist that people aren't all bad. A therapist ought to be the first people that understand that and live into it. Well, the same with you. You may be thinking all of this crummy stuff about yourself, but you're not all bad. Or you may see other people as all good. Well, they're not all good. We've all got struggles. Viktor Frankl, what a man who survived the Nazi concentration camps, the Auschwitz, writes the book Man's Search for Meaning, which I read cover to cover and just loved it. Listen to what he says. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing. The last of the human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. When we're no longer able to change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom. If you react versus respond in that space, you're going to make some mistakes. So you know what Viktor Frankl's response was? When he was in that camp, death camp, he couldn't control anything but his attitude. And so what he did was every day he thought about, he envisioned himself standing in front of a bunch of people lecturing on how to survive torture in a death camp. And so he would not only think about that, but he would think about what was he going to say, and then he would do the things that he knew to do because he had thought about them. I'm going to be teaching people this, I better do them. If you were going to teach folks a seminary class on how to get over the problems that you have, what would you be teaching them? What would you be saying? Maybe it's something to consider. So, when a person goes off to war to fight, what's the goal? I think the goal is peace. I think it's to win the battle so you can stay at peace, so that somebody doesn't come in and control your country or whatever. Same with the war within. You want to win the battles so that you can live in peace with yourself. So, what are my thoughts that I need to maybe battle? Got all sorts of negative things, but how about, oh, I'm so grateful that I'm well. So grateful I have a home or a shelter, whatever it is I have. I'm so grateful that I have a God that I can talk to. I'm so grateful. That's what you can do with the mind to help your situation, to get to the place of peace. The mind chooses things. It needs to choose people. You may be isolated, disconnected. Let's choose some people who maybe felt called to help people like you. And maybe they work in a mission, maybe they work in a homeless shelter, maybe they work in a therapist office. But let's go find those people and start letting them go to work with you and do what they tell you would be helpful to do. Now, maybe it's time to sit down and write down some things that you love to do or would love to do. Things that make you feel good about yourself. Let's write those down, because if we do those things one day, it's going to bring fulfillment and peace to us. Let's take those thoughts and let's ask ourselves, is that true? Is that likely to happen? Is it really going to be that bad? And let's get rid of the negative stuff. And then how about we do something like, God, I can't handle all this stuff by myself. And I don't want to be handling all this stuff. And then you just give it to Jesus. Jesus, would you help me with this? Would you take it? And then you actually write down every little thing that you have to be grateful for. I'll finish with this Psalm 18, 28 through 29 that says, You have turned on my light. The Lord my God has made my darkness turn to light. Now in your strength, I can scale any wall, attack any truth. I would say a person with that kind of attitude about what God has done for them is going to have a pretty peaceful life and a life of strength and purpose and meaning. There are those that are too into themselves, too independent to ever know what it's like to be in partnership with God and even partnership with other people. There are others at the other end of the spectrum who have found themselves in this place of learned helplessness where they've offered up some fatal excuses for not getting help. I don't know where you are, but I'm going to ask you to take the time to consider where you are. Write down where you are and develop a strategy. Find the people that can help you get out of that place or get better or move further into your purpose. That's what the soul of a hero does. Thanks for joining me. If you need some help, it's 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And if you'd like a free Bible, I'll send you the Restoration Bible. All you have to do is email me at stevesocial@newlife.com. See you next time.